Hello everybody, welcome back to American Textbook Reading. My name is Brian Stuart and we're looking at Social Studies Book 4, Lesson 12, In the Bank. Now I know you're probably too young to worry about the bank or money, but it's really never too early to think about saving your money, right? So in this lesson, we will discover how people save and spend money, and also why people save money. So let's begin. We have many words in the vocabulary section about saving money. The first one is deposit. Deposit can be a verb, and it can also be a noun. In this case, it's a verb because we see to put. Then we know it's a verb. So to put money in a bank. So, do you have any money? If your parents give you some allowance maybe every week, maybe you could ask your mom or your dad to help you make a bank account, and you can deposit. When you put money in the bank, you deposit the money in the bank. You could also make a deposit. In that case, it's a noun. To make a deposit. A deposit is the act of putting money in the bank. That's a noun. So it can be a verb or it can be a noun. To deposit money in a bank or to make a deposit. Okay. Next we have in return. If I give you something, will you give me something in return? In return is as a way of paying someone for something. When you go to the store, right, and you want to buy a key, no, I'm just kidding. That's some other situation. You want to buy candy or a toy, right? You give the store owner or the person who works at the store, you give them some money. In return, they give you the object that you want to buy. This picture shows maybe somebody's buying a car, or maybe they're buying a house or something. That's not a lot of money to buy. Well, I don't know what currency is that. Oh, I thought that was Korean money. I don't know what currency that is. So I'm not sure how much money that is. But maybe they'll make many payments. But anyway, you give money. In return, the person gives you something else. So you give someone A, they give you B in return. Okay? It's a way of paying someone for something. Okay, the next word is interest. Now, interest, are you interested in this lesson? Okay, well, that's a different meaning of interest, right? So, but anyway, in this case, we're talking about interest at a bank. It's the extra money that you receive, you get from having money in a bank. This is a little complicated or a little difficult concept, but let me make it easy for you. Let's say you have $10, right? You have $10 or manwon, and you put it into the bank. Usually, maybe the bank will give you 2% interest. 2% interest. That means after 1 year, they will give you 2% of the money you have in the bank. They'll just give it to you, just for having your money in the bank. What is 2% of $10? Well, 2% of $10 is $0.20, right? That's 20 cents. It's not a lot of money, but it is some money, right? And it's free. Well, it's free. You put it in the bank, you don't use it, and the bank gives you money. Why does the bank do that? Because if another person borrows $10, or if they borrow $10, then the bank charges them interest. That's a different type of interest. They might charge that person 5% interest. So basically, at the end of the year, that person has to pay back $10 plus 50 cents, because 5% of $10 is 50 cents. Right? So if you borrow that money, you have to pay back $10 plus 50 cents. The bank, what happens with the bank? The bank, of course, what's the difference between 50 cents and 20 cents? Is 30 cents, right? So the bank makes money by doing that. Anyway, that's interest. The main idea is that if you put your money in the bank will give you a small percentage of that back every year, every half year. It depends on what the bank policy is. They will give you a small percentage of your money back in interest. So if you have a lot of money, you put it in the bank, you get interest on that money. You don't have to do anything, just keep it in the bank. Of course, the bank is using your money to make money themselves, and they give you a percentage of that. But that's interest. That's the extra money you receive from the money you have in the bank. Check. Okay, now, this lesson is, of course, from the American textbook reading series. Americans use checks, and this is a good picture of a check. Now, many countries don't use checks. For example, in Korea, you do not use checks. So it's a little difficult to explain this concept sometimes to Koreans. And in fact, I appreciate the Korean system more than I do the American system. When I was in America, of course, you have a savings account and you have a checking account. They're different. It might be the same bank, but your savings account, that's just money you put in there and you don't take the money out. You just get interest. But then you have a checking account. You open a checking account, you put money in there, and the bank doesn't give you checks. The bank makes you buy a checkbook with checks in it. That's another way they make money. Anyway, that's American banks. And then when you go to the store, right? You go to the store and you want to buy something. Now, you can use money, right? Just paper money and just give them the money. Or you can use a check, or you can use a credit card. So you're going to pay by cash, by check, or by credit. By cash, by check, or by credit. Those are three different ways to pay at a store or restaurant when you want to buy something. Now, a check, of course, is a piece of paper like this. It's in a book that you tear off. You might have 50 or 100 checks in your book, and it's a piece of paper that orders a bank to pay money from a checking account. Now, let me show you how the check works here. Up here, you put the date. So you might put August 5th. And then, of course, the year, 2020. And then you say, here it says pay to the order of, and you write the name of the restaurant. So let's say ABC Restaurant, ABC Restaurant. And then here it says how much? $1,000. Oh my God, what did you eat? Okay, I'm just kidding. But that's, $1,000 right there, okay? So then you have to spell that out. For some reason, they just put 1,000. You should put 1. And they already spelled out $1,000. And then here, that's optional. You can say, I ate 100 Big Macs, right? Big Macs. I was really hungry. Okay, and then you sign, right? You just sign your name on this part here. Now, what happens is you give that check to the restaurant owner, and the restaurant owner takes those checks. They get maybe many checks from many different customers. They go to the bank, and they put those checks into their bank account. Now, their bank might be ABC Bank, and your bank is XYZ Bank. So they put their check in the ABC Bank. ABC Bank sends the checks to your bank, XYZ Bank, and XYZ Bank takes the money out of your checking account and sends it to the restaurant owner's bank account. It's very complicated, okay? But that's how many Americans will pay for things. Now, paying by check is a little old-fashioned these days. Many Americans still use checks. Checks are still very common in America, but people are moving away from checks and they're doing internet banking or wire transfers. In Korea, of course, you do a lot of wire transfers or internet banking. I like the Korean system much better. Checks are old-fashioned, okay? Hopefully, Korea will never use checks, okay? It's much simpler just to have one bank account and don't worry about checks. And just have internet banking on your phone or just transfer money at an ATM, okay? Whew. But checks are a little bit complicated. But they're mostly in America, and other countries will use them as well. I'm familiar with the American system because I did use checks when I was younger. When I moved to Korea, no checks. Much easier. Count yourself lucky. Okay, next. Bill. What is a bill? A bill is a piece of paper listing costs that you should pay for using goods or services. Well, course, you should pay your bills with money, obviously. But a bill, let's say you go to the grocery store. That's what this is. Looks like they went to the grocery store and they bought raspberries. And raspberries, what is it? $2.99. So they bought raspberries. Raspberries are $2.99. And they also bought, it looks like Italian Parmesan cheese. And that was $2.07. So the bill lists everything that they bought. If you go to a restaurant, again, using the restaurant example, you buy a meal, but you might buy a salad too, and a drink. All of those items are listed on the bill, and the total is on the bottom of the bill. The total is how much you should pay. And usually they also add tax to that. So that is the bill. And bills are just statements saying how much you owe a person or a company because you used their goods or services. Okay, that is a bill. Credit card, I mentioned this before. Of course, that's one of the ways to pay people for using their goods or services. You can pay cash, you can pay by check, you can pay by credit card. Of course, many people just say by credit. They don't say card, but that's okay. Credit card is a plastic card that you can use instead of cash. It's very convenient. It's much better than using a check. Just give them your card and it automatically takes the money out of your bank account. Well, that's a debit card. Credit card, when you use a credit card, that's a good difference. There's a credit card and there's a debit card. A debit card, it just automatically comes out of your bank account. With a credit card, at the end of the month, you get a bill. The credit card company will send you a bill. Say, okay, you used your credit card at this store. You used your credit card at this restaurant 2 days later. Every day, and the amount, the money that you used at each store is listed on your credit card bill, and at the end of the month, you pay that bill. So that's another example of a bill. Savings account. We talked about savings account, right? That's the money. If you put money into a bank, you put it in your savings account. It's a bank account that earns interest. Usually, again, in America, savings accounts give you more interest than a checking account. I'm not sure if checking accounts give you interest or not. That's just money that you use for your checking account. But savings accounts usually give you more money in interest. Checking account is the next. Checking account, a bank account which you can take money out of at any time using your checkbook or cash card. Cash card, I said debit card. It's also called debit card, cash card. So, and again, that's the American system, right? They have two different types of accounts. They have a savings account and a checking account. You have to have two different accounts. You have to keep two different separate amounts of money in the bank. You don't have to have a savings account. You could just have a checking account, but you won't earn any interest on it, or not very much interest on it. Thankfully, in many other countries, like in Korea, you just have one account, and you can tie your credit card to it. You can tie your cash card or debit card to it, and you don't worry about checks, and you also earn interest on it. So it's a savings account, but it's also an account where you can actually use that money with a card or just withdrawing or wire transferring money. So that's the difference. Of course, in America, you have the difference between savings account and a checking account. Whew. Okay, good. So those are our words for the vocabulary. Let's talk about the first main idea here, and that is about saving and spending money. How do people save money? How do people spend money? Over here, we have some examples of how people save money. And over on the right side, we have some examples of how people spend money. Of course, money is very important in our society. It's very convenient to be able to exchange or use goods and services. So, how do you save money? You can open a savings account at the bank. That's one way to save money. People deposit, they put their money. Another way to say deposit is put money in the bank. That's to deposit. People deposit their money in their savings accounts, and the bank adds interest to the accounts in return. If you save your money with our bank, we will give you interest in return. So you give them your money, they're giving you some money back. It's kind of like a service, right? You're choosing the bank to manage your money, and as in return, they give you interest for trusting them or using them for keeping your money. Okay, so that's how you save money. Open a bank account. And it's a good idea. Even if you're young, it's probably never too early to open a bank account in your name. Start saving money. It's very important for your life. Okay, spending money. Now, of course, we need to spend money. Don't spend all your money, of course. Be wise. Choose wisely when you spend your money. But how do people spend money? Well, of course, this person here is a customer, and she is going to pay with a check at a restaurant. So she's giving the waiter a check. Now, of course, she can pay the bill, right? This is the bill here. The waiter is giving the customer a bill, and she's giving the waiter some form of payment. This could be cash, it could be credit card, it could be a check. In this case, we're talking about a check. So she gives the waiter a check. The restaurant sends the check to the customer's bank. We talked about this before. The bank takes the money from the customer's checking account and sends it to the restaurant's banking account. And that's how the money is finally transferred. So you see, checking is more difficult. A checking account is more difficult. That system is more difficult. It adds another step in the process, and it's really an old-fashioned way of transferring money from one person to another. Thankfully, many countries don't use checking accounts. Unfortunately, Americans still use checking accounts quite often. They may not realize how inconvenient it is compared to other systems, but as an American myself, I can tell you it's much easier in Korea to don't worry about a checking account. Just use a debit card, a credit card, or just transfer money from one account to the other. So anyway, that is how people will save money, and that is how people will spend money. Another idea in this unit, why people save money. And I encourage you to save money. Even if you don't have a bank account, maybe you have a piggy bank, right? A little pig with a slot in the top. You can put bills in there. You can also put coins in there. Save it up, okay? And you can use it in the future. So why do people save money? Well, maybe they want to buy a new bicycle, right? That's a good reason. You can save your money to buy something big later on. A bicycle is expensive. You don't have enough money now, but if you save your money over time, then you can buy something more expensive later on that you really want or that you really need. Now, it's also important to go to college. College costs a lot of money, so people need to save money. Probably your mom or your dad has an account at a bank that's for your college spending. Many parents do this. They save money for their children to go to college because college is expensive. They don't have all the money right away, so every month they put a little bit of money aside, and after a long time, as you grow up, that money gets bigger and bigger, and then you can go to college on that money. You can also save for your own college as well. A little bit and help your mom and dad. Some people save money to go abroad. That means to travel to another country. And that's also a very good use of money because it's always good to travel and experience new cultures, new languages, new ways of thinking. Traveling abroad is always a good idea. And be careful where you go, of course, but go there to learn about new people, new customs, new languages. Very interesting. It's educational as well. So people will save money to buy or to purchase expensive things in the future, whether it's a new bicycle, a college education, or a trip abroad. So people save money to buy goods and services in the future. That's the main reason why people will save money. So it's a good idea. If you want something big in the future, start saving now. Okay, let's take a look at the reading passage. As usual, I will read it out loud. You guys repeat it after me, either out loud or in your mind. focus on the vocabulary words, and of course, focus on pronunciation for all the words, especially the more difficult ones. Are you guys ready? Let's begin. We all need to spend and save money. Using a bank is the usual way that people save their money. Each week, my parents give me $5. I keep $3 and I deposit $2 in my savings account. In return, the bank gives me interest so that my $2 grows into more money. That is why people save money in a bank. My parents also deposit money in a bank. My dad writes a check to pay bills for things like electricity and gas. The money is taken out of the checking account each month. My parents also have a credit card. They use this to pay for expensive things like cars or TVs. When I get older, I will also use a checking account and a credit card to spend my money. Okay, let's go over how this information was organized in the reading passage. Here we have cause on the left side and effect on the right side. Cause is an action. You do an action and there is a result. The result is the effect of that action. We have two actions here, 1 and 2, and then of course we have two results or two effects of those actions. So what's the first action? Let's go over these. Each week my parents give me $5, right? Great. I keep $2 in my savings account. So what does the person do? The person who's writing this reading passage, when they take money and they deposit into their savings account. So they deposit. We use the word deposit. Now, of course, you could also use put. Put is a broad verb. It has many meanings for many different situations. You put your toys in a box. You put your clothes in the closet. But when we're talking about putting money in a bank, that is a specific idea. We use a more specific verb. Deposit. You deposit the money into the bank. Of course, you can say I put the money in the bank, but deposit is specifically used for putting money into a bank. So you deposit $2 into your savings account. What happens as a result of that? The bank gives me what? The bank gives me, they'll give me a little bit of money back, and we call that interest. Interest. The bank gives me interest. There we go. The bank gives me interest on the money in my savings account. Okay, good. That's the first cause and effect. The second cause and effect, my dad writes what? He writes a check, right? We talked about that in the vocabulary, and I wrote one for you as an example. So your dad writes a check. Why does he write a check? Because every month he gets many whats? Right? Of course, in your household, you use electricity, you use gas, you use water, and maybe other services in your neighborhood or in your town. And the companies that are providing these services will send you a written statement listing those services and how much they cost. Of course, we talked about those. And so every month, your mom and dad have to pay bills. So your dad might write a check, right? What is the result of that? Well, the money that is taken out of the what? Again, this is an American situation. You have a savings account and you have a checking account. So the money is taken out of the checking account. It's two words, actually. Checking account each month. Okay, so, and I know this can be sometimes confusing to people who don't use banking systems like the American system. don't worry about it. If you're in America, you have to open a checking account, and you will have to learn what is a checking account and how to use it. If you're in many other countries that don't have a checking account, be happy. You are lucky you don't have to deal with that system, which is kind of old-fashioned and kind of difficult to deal with. It's much easier, of course, just to use a debit card, a credit card, or cash, or just to wire money. Okay, so that is our lesson for today. It's a good lesson, though, because it's very important to start thinking about money. How much will you save? Are there purchases? Are there things you want to buy in your future that cost a lot of money? You have to start saving your money. And a good place to save your money is in a bank, because they will give you interest. If you need to save money for a very long period of time, then put your money in the bank and they will give you interest on your money. So you're like making money for not doing anything, just putting the money in the bank. So that's a good idea. Of course, when you get older, and of course now, you spend money, and there are many different ways to spend money. We went over a few of those in this lesson. Okay, well, thanks for studying with me. As always, I hope you learned some useful words and some useful ideas about life. Okay, take it easy, everybody. We'll see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye.